get drawn back to the Kariba Gorge hydroelectric scheme as if by a magnet. It could only have been tackled in the post-war period, and this is another war the bulldozer is winning. Only modern equipment would make any impression on the hard rock. Things are beginning to take shape. There's a temporary bridge across the Zambezi, and the cofferdams are temporary too. Temporary also are the camps of prefab, which house the workers, the best that can be done for the time being. We got a fair idea of how priceless comfort is around here when a new refrigerator was delivered. They're a cheerful and rugged crowd of fellows, roughing it quite a bit, but frequently there's something special cooked up as a treat. Of course, fancy cakes don't form a steady diet for these pioneers, but they live and feed pretty well. They need to, because no recognized measurement exists of the energy required to hew a giant hydroelectric scheme out of a primeval piece of Africa. In the gathering dusk, ex-servicemen assemble for the opening of Salisbury's Field of Remembrance. It's a solemn civic occasion, and the mayor's chaplain, the Reverend M. Conviser, conducted the remembrance service. The assembly was addressed by the Southern Rhodesian Prime Minister, Mr. R.S. Garfield Todd, who later laid a wreath of evergreens. The mayor, Mr. Pecanic, led the citizens of Salisbury in planting crosses of remembrance. In Salisbury, too, the Hellenic community celebrates the foundation stone laying of the new Athenaeum Hall by the Prime Minister. The president of the Salisbury Hellenic community, Mr. Parfitis, said the new hall would serve all the citizens of Salisbury in search of cultural pursuits and enjoyment. Praising the Greeks for their service to the community, the Prime Minister then laid the foundation stone. The estimated cost of the Athenaeum Hall is £75,000, a fine contribution to goodwill and to the country of their adoption by Salisbury's citizens of Greek origin. Leaving Salisbury, Spotlight paid a visit to Frogmore Farm, one of the most progressive in the Federation. Its success is due to the intelligent use of irrigation, its 800 million-gallon dam being among the largest built by private enterprise. This plentiful water supply acts as a buffer against drought over a large proportion of Frogmore's 12,000 acres, allowing crops to be planted punctually and brought to maturity earlier. Getting the water to the plants at the right time is, of course, a major undertaking, with so many acres under cultivation. But it enables Frogmore Farm to be just about ready to reap tobacco when some farmers are still waiting to plant. As the ridging plow moves through the land, turning up the first potatoes, the indications are that the yield will be well in excess of the average. Potatoes, however, are only one of the farm's several crops. For though cultivation is intensive, the conservation of the soil alone dictates the rotation of crops. Barley is produced extensively, and modern combines reap and bale it when it is ripe. Frogmore Farm's barley goes into the making of beer and is delivered straight to the brewery. So whether you thirst for information or just thirst, it's a good show anyway. At Kansanshi in northern Rhodesia, there is probably one of the most ancient copper mines in Africa. Originally, slave labor toiled in its tortuous fissures, but it was only rediscovered in 1920. Now exploratory work is being carried out at Kansanshi with a view to reopening it on a paying basis, in which case the existing equipment will be scrapped for something more modern. Through its remoteness and the low price of copper, the post-1920 operations came to a close, but the old mine may well have another life in store for it. We go to Nchanga for another story of the development of long-known copper resources. Here, for the first time in 26 years, open pit mining is making a reappearance, as giant electrical shovels set about uncovering the first ore body to be discovered in these parts. An interesting point is that the nature of the ground renders underground mining too costly. At present, only the overburden is being removed and dumped, but when the ore is reached at a depth of 70 or 80 feet, It will raise Nchanga's production from 275,000 to 360,000 tons a month. The workings will be constructed in steps or banks of 30 feet. There are millions of tons of earth to be moved, but when it comes, the payoff should be tremendous. Just south of Nkhata Bay on Lake Nyassa, the Visara estate grows the only rubber produced in southern Africa. The 1,500-acre plantation was started in a natural rainforest some 50 years ago. The trees are tapped every other day, and as each laborer has 400 trees to tend, he makes 200 daily tappings. The latex runs down the new cut and is collected in cups. These are later emptied into buckets with as little wastage as possible. Every day, the raw latex is brought out of the plantation and taken to the factory for processing. It's still in a gooey sort of liquid form and goes through a cleaning process. Then, under careful supervision, certain chemicals, formic acid and sodium bisulfite, are mixed in with it to help coagulate it and keep it white. It is then poured into molds of convenient size to set. After it has coagulated, it is rolled 6 times through the creping machine, emerging in the form one knows so well from crepe rubber soles. The sheets of crepe rubber are sorted and graded, then finally packed for shipment. Every year, about 50 tons of crepe rubber are produced by the Visara estate, and the whole output heads down Lake Nyassa on its way to the Bata shoe factory at Gwello in southern Rhodesia. The sheets are separated and given further treatment. Once again, it is put through rollers, where it's mixed with other rubber and more chemicals until it is tacky and pliable. Finally stretched, the required design is put on by profile rollers, and the crepe rubber is ready to be cut into soles for shoes. These, then, are the only crepe soles produced entirely in southern Africa. And the fact that it's all done within the boundaries of the Federation gives a further illustration of healthy industrial expansion using internal supplies of raw materials.